You know, when I went through hunter safety, one of the things we were always warned not to do is to carry mixed ammunition, to always check our ammunition to make sure we had the proper ammunition for the gun that we were shooting, and only the ammunition for the gun we were shooting. And that's really good advice, and you should adhere to it. But we had always heard, oh my goodness, the worst thing that can happen is getting a 20 gauge shell mixed in with your 12 gauge ammunition, and when you're out in the field, shoving in a 20 gauge, having it go click, and then putting in a 12 gauge round behind it and pulling the trigger and having it go kabloom. Well, you know, we're concerned about what really would happen, and we do think that you need to, of course, be very cautious with handling of ammunition. But we're going to give it a try under fact and fiction. We're going to put a 20 gauge shell in this 870 barrel. Now first I want to show you what can happen. When you drop a 20 gauge shell in, it flat out disappears. So you can see that that's way down there and it's stuck and it's not going to come out easily, and there's plenty of room for a 12 gauge round to go in right behind it. Now we got trouble brewing. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and simulate exactly what would happen in the field if you accidentally did this. Got a 20 gauge round mixed up with your shells, you're under pressure and you weren't thinking, you stuck the round in, nothing happened, oh, I must not have chambered, and you chambered a full load behind it. So we're going to assemble this gun, load it up just like this, get back to a safe place, and pull the trigger, and we'll see what happens. Wow, I am amazed. The barrel is not blown or bulged. It blew the action open, and we'll check into that in a moment, but I can't believe it. We were sitting behind hard cover, but I saw the impact of the round, which means it shot that entire 20 gauge shell, shoved it down the barrel, plunked it down range with a buckshot, Magnum buckshot load behind it. Now it blew the action open, and we don't know what it did inside the receiver. There's a good chance it possibly, you know, sheared the locking block or damaged the barrel extension. But also, there's no case here. And I just looked, and the case is over here, about 10 feet away. Now, I don't think that's any good way to make a semi-auto, but it sure ejected the case. So, we're going to take the gun out, and we're going to disassemble it, and we're going to see if there's what parts, if any, are damaged inside. But I tell you, I am really impressed already. Let's get to work on it. Well, I just pulled the 870 shotgun out of the holding fixture after firing it, and I checked, and son of a gun if that gun doesn't lock up, and seemed to lock up tight. So it appears to be functioning. Now that doesn't mean that the barrel extension isn't damaged or the locking block isn't cracked or some other problem isn't present. But again, don't do this, but I'm very, very impressed with a Remington shotgun, Remington 870. That's not to say that an older gun or a different type of gun that wasn't built as well might not have real disastrous results. So you definitely do not want to duplicate this. But anyway, let's go ahead and pull the gun down and see what we got. Well, first we're going to inspect the barrel. The locking lug, I've looked it over, and it really does not look like it's damaged. I expect that to be rolled over, peened badly, or stretched in some way. Doesn't appear to have happened. We'd only know for sure with checking with a headspace gauge, but it just doesn't appear to have been a problem. Next, I was looking down the tube, and I am not seeing any bulges whatsoever. Now, we just sent a 20 gauge shell downrange ahead of a Magnum load. I am just absolutely amazed. Okay, I'm not seeing any damage to the barrel or the barrel extension. Let's now take a look at the bolt, the locking block, and the slide. Let's look at the bolt face. It's not peened or caved in. The extractor's still in place. I mean, oftentimes when you have a major overload, it'll blow the extractor out. The bolt lock, the locking block, is not sheared. It's not rounded. I don't see any cracks. The bolt slide is not warped or bent. I would have expected that to buckle because that's what holds the locking block up into place. It's locked in place. And it just under the recoil, probably what happened, it's possible on a high pressure overload that the bolt lock, the slide lock, just under recoil came unengaged because it's not sheared, and just let the gun blow open. You saw the empty was like 10 feet away. So no real damage here. Let's take a look inside the receiver. Well, I'm looking inside the receiver, and the cutout rails for the slide, which I would expect to be pushed downward, dented, or in some way, dug out or bent or tweaked, just isn't. And the receiver isn't spread at all either. So my conclusion at this point is this is not something you want to go out and do, and the recoil had to be absolutely hellacious. But this gun held together and appears to be safe to shoot again. Don't try this. Don't use it on an inferior shotgun. You may have disastrous results. But with this gun, it passed what I am just amazed that it could even do. So we learned something new today in fact or fiction.